Welcome everyone, this is Dr. Mercola, and today I'm joined with Dr. Lawrence Palevsky, who is a board-certified pediatrician and who uses a holistic approach to children and wellness and illness by incorporating nutritional science, environmental medicine, chiropractic, osteopathy, and other natural healing modalities in his pediatric office in New York. He also has worked in a pediatric emergency and intensive medicine and in neonatal and newborn care. He is one of the leading pediatricians in the United States that advocates a more conservative approach to using vaccines. So, welcome, and thank you for joining us today, Dr. Palevsky.
Pleasure to be here.
As a former fellow of the American Academy of Pediatrics, could you give us some background on how you came to choose a more holistic way of practicing medicine with children?
I was taught in residency, in medical school and residency, that vaccines are safe and they were effective, and that there's absolutely no reason to question it because we've done all the studies. What I've realized is that the safety that I would want for kids, having taken the Hippocratic Oath of first do no harm, is not happening. The vaccines are not safe the way we're told that they're safe. The injection of these materials has never really been evaluated in different age groups in pediatrics or in adults. We don't know where vaccine materials travel. We don't know if they go into the brain. We don't know if they go into the liver. We don't know if they go into the lymph system. We don't know if they get intracellularly and destroy mitochondria and nuclei. All we know is that they give you an IgG antibody and the disease seems to disappear, but we're not really looking to see if there's an adverse outcome greater than the actual disease process itself. And I've come to a position where there's not enough information to say that vaccines are sufficiently safe to warrant the kind of usage of these vaccines the way we're implementing these policies. And in fact, in many cases, some of the adverse effects of vaccines may have been greater than the adverse effects of the actual diseases. And I'm concerned because I took that oath of first do no harm, and I see firsthand what's going on with the vaccines and how it's affecting children's health. I did not turn my back when I heard parent after parent in the dozens, in the hundreds, and then in the thousands start to say that their children were fine, and then they got vaccinated, and then something really bad happened to them acutely, or within days or weeks or even months. Those parents were told 100% of the time by the conventional medical system, it's a coincidence. It couldn't possibly be related to the vaccine. As a person who's curious about science and questioning, it became obvious to me that there may not be a coincidence here, and that something more may be going on. I think it's hard for any physician who is so invested in the love of the children and the love of their practice to actually step back and say, am I doing something that's hurting the children in my practice? Because the foundation that's broken after they may realize that there's more that they knew, that they actually were wrong. You know, telling a physician that they're wrong is not an easy thing to do, let alone to have the physician actually admit that the physician is wrong. To hear a physician, it took me years to say, I don't know, or maybe I was wrong. In such a litigious society, it's very hard for physicians to actually say, I don't know, or maybe I was wrong, or maybe I did something that I didn't know was harmful. And so the physicians have to adhere to this one party line voice that says vaccines are safe, they're effective, and you must get them. There's no room for disagreement. And to disagree with that means that you're disagreeing with the one party line, the paternalistic body that says you must listen to me. And then we're no longer dealing with actual medicine. We're dealing with something very different. And I would go so far as to say that the people who hold true to the vaccines are completely safe, they're completely effective, oh, well, maybe there are a couple of side effects that happen occasionally. But if the adherents who say vaccines are safe, they're effective, you must get vaccinated or else your child will die. If you don't vaccinate, you're the one that's going to infect everybody else, because somehow vaccines eliminate the presence of organisms in those who are vaccinated, which is another myth that people propagate. And I think parents are waking up to the fact that we can't trust you when you say stuff like that. In fact, we are repulsed by your authority when we hear you say things like that. What we need is a little more humility, because I trusted, and this is what happened to my kid. You can't tell me it's a coincidence, because I know, and my friends know, and my relatives know, because we have all these autoimmune diseases and chronic inflammatory diseases that we didn't have, and now we have all these vaccines and we're seeing things happen. We know, and you're not listening. So if you're not listening, we're going to find the people who will. And really the people who are listening are the parents. And what you need is a critical mass of parents who are going to be able to go into the legislatures, because the legislatures are parroting the ideology, because they're not as scientifically based as the physicians or as the parents. And they're just following the lobbyists who tell them, from the manufacturers, from the medical organizations, from the whatever other lobbyists are there, that vaccines are completely safe and effective, and this is what they do. But the parents are getting in there, and they're fighting, and they need to keep fighting and educating, because they're the ones who are home with the kids. They're the ones who are seeing the changes. They're the ones who are reading the literature and seeing that there are a tremendous number of scientific studies that are proving that vaccines may not be as safe and effective as we thought they were. And the only way to create this dialogue is for those parents to bring it out, because the media won't report it, because they're part of the lobbyists that are making sure that this information doesn't get out.
I'm wondering if you have any recommendations for parents who encounter a physician or pediatrician who's resistant to the vaccines and basically fires them from their practice,
Right.
and how they can find a clinician who's more open to this and allow them to exercise their own choice.
Right. Well, before the physician fires the parent, I do recommend that the parent try to engage in a calm, quiet dialogue. And I mean, the appeal that I recommend that parents bring to their physicians is, I like you. I like the way you care for my family. I respect your clinical judgment. I don't expect that we're going to have 100% agreement in the way in which I practice medicine with my family and the way you as a physician practice medicine in your office. But this is an issue that I'm asking you if you would respect my wishes, because I'd really like you to continue taking care of my child. And if the physician at that point says no, then the parent has been given a blessing, because you really want to work with a physician who you respect and who respects most of your opinions. And the way in which parents would then find a physician is asking other parents in the community, because most physicians who are open are not advertising that they're open. There are some physicians who do have resources for parents. I think Dr. Bob Steers has one, that he has a list of physicians who are open to either a staggered vaccine schedule or to not vaccinating. But I don't know if that list is complete, and I don't know the people on the list, so I can't vouch for them. But I do understand that there are physicians, and the best way to find those physicians is through either nvic.org, because they do know some physicians. There are other allied health professionals who are aware of physicians, so you might find some in Chinese medicine or in chiropractic or in naturopathy, osteopathy, homeopathy, that know physicians in the area who are open, and but rarely would you able to find it out from any medical organizations.
Yeah. With respect to vaccine injury, I'm wondering if you can share your experience with how many patients you're seeing in your practice now, a month or a year, where these individuals have a clear-cut case of vaccine injury.
Well, my first answer is too many. But I see, I mean, right now I'm working a part-time schedule of 2 clinical days a week, and I would say that I see at least one each of those days. So at least 2 a week of children whose parents have this inner belief that their children succumb to an injury from the vaccination. And it's sad because, I look at many of these families and I say, I wish I never had to see you for these reasons. Many parents will ask, well, how do I get my kids better? And the question is a good one, but the question on top of that is really, I don't know. And you have a lot of people who say, I can get those kids better. I have this treatment and that treatment. I think we really don't understand the depths to which the vaccine materials get into the nuclei, the mitochondria, through the cell membranes, across the blood-brain barrier, into the brain, into the immune cells. We don't have any understanding of what those materials are and the depths to which those materials get in. So to say, and whether or not those contaminants actually become a regular part of protein synthesis, enzymes, or just hijacking the optimal cellular DNA and RNA of that cell. We have no idea. So when parents say to me, how do I get my kids better? The first thing that I say to them is, after I've said this, is we have to try to stop feeding any other toxins into the body, because the body can heal itself if given the right tools. And so the goal is to stop putting the things into the body that continue to create an inflammatory reaction, in hopes that you can then support the body to remove whatever inflammation is circulating so that a new function can happen. Each kid is different, so there's no across the board, this is the remedy that I would use for every kid. And then I work with a lot of other practitioners who can support the body's innate capacity to heal so that the kids can get better. Not everybody can get better because we don't know the depths of their injury. We also don't know the depths of what's in their bodies after they've been injected with things that we don't even know are in there.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, we know, but there's much more that we don't know than we know at this point.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I've worked with so many kids who with chronic illness, not just autism, but chronic illness across the board. And I've just offered the families the information that I've learned over the years, supported with the scientific literature. And the families would notice that their kids would get better. And it was diet, it was supplements, it was referrals to different practitioners, it was different lifestyle changes, different parenting techniques, understanding development better. And the parents would then go back to the pediatricians that they also see on a regular basis. And almost 100% of the time, these pediatricians did not want to know how the kids got better. Mm-hmm. There was no curiosity. There was no interest. They were just happy that the children were better. But none of them were even going to the place of having a discussion with the parents. I mean, I gave a talk recently, and there was a physician in the audience, and one of the studies that I showed was comparing health outcomes of vaccinated, partially vaccinated, and non-vaccinated children. And just with that study, the conclusions from that study were that parents who had children who were fully vaccinated reported higher incidences of atopic disease. And parents who had children who were not vaccinated reported the least number of children with atopic disease. And that was a statistically significant finding. And the doctor who heard that study started getting belligerent and getting angry with me and yelling at me that he could find studies that showed that vaccines do not contribute to atopic illness or allergies or asthma. And I said, well, who does those studies? And he started to get more ornery with me. And he accused me of cherry picking the literature. And what I tried to say, and had a little difficulty saying, was that if you show me the studies that show that there's no relationship between vaccines and atopic disease, where were you comparing vaccinated kids to non-vaccinated kids? Because those studies have not been done. You won't find those studies. So I'm not cherry picking the literature. I'm finding the only study that I can find that actually compares vaccinated to unvaccinated children that doesn't necessarily conclude that vaccines cause atopic disease. All that study shows is that in that population, there was a statistically significant finding between vaccinated and unvaccinated children. So what I said to the group was, this study should be a peek into the potential for other studies to see if it's replicable, if it actually has truth in it, and let's do the science. And again, the ideology was so strong in him that he attacked me, he was belligerent, and he couldn't accept the fact that I wasn't cherry picking the literature. I was actually finding the only piece of literature that supported what I thought and what others think is good scientific standards, using good scientific standards. Let's do more studies.
Yeah. Applying the scientific method in a sound and rational way. Correct. That was designed to be. Right. So I'm wondering if you could mention your resources, any books or websites or clinic that you have if people wanted to find out more information about what you're doing or see you professionally.
Well, I have a website, www.drpalevsky.com, DRPALE, V as in Victor, S as in Sam, KY, drpalevsky.com. I also have a Facebook page where I post updated articles and my comments on some of those articles. That's at Lawrence B. Palevsky, MD. And there's a lot of resources on my website for my philosophy, how to get in touch with me if I see patients and where. And that's about it.
Well, terrific. Well, thank you for joining us and contributing to our important information on this topic that we really can't get too much of because there's just so much that's not known. So appreciate you and all you're doing to help advance the science.
Thank you.